Donc, bonjour à tous et à toutes. Good afternoon. Donc, nous allons commencer. Certaines personnes sont encore en train de se joindre à nous. Alors, installez-vous confortablement. Donc, sans plus tarder, je m'appelle Lisa Léveillé. Je suis gestionnaire de programme chez Interpares. Je me joins à vous aujourd'hui en provenance du territoire non cédé du peuple Anishinaabe. Nous rendons hommage au peuple Anishinaabe, le premier gardien de ce territoire. Puis, on veut reconnaître leur relation de longue date avec cet espace magnifique où les rivières maintenant connues sous les noms de Gatineau, Outaouais et Rideau se rencontrent. Donc, un excellent lieu de rassemblement pour nous aujourd'hui. I'll start by noting that we have simultaneous interpretation available on our conversation today. So if you require interpretation, please find the globe-like icon at the bottom of your screen and select the language of your preference. Donc, je commencerai aussi par mentionner en français que nous disposons d'une interprétation simultanée pour notre conversation. Daniel s'est joint à nous pour nous offrir une interprétation en français et en anglais. Alors, merci Daniel. Si vous avez besoin d'interprétation, vous pouvez trouver l'icône en forme de globe au bas de votre écran, puis sélectionner la langue de votre choix. Donc, avant de commencer, juste quelques petits points de logistique. Si vous avez besoin d'assistante technique à n'importe quel moment dans le webinaire, vous pouvez contacter Monique par le chat, le clavier droit. Et cet espace-là va rester ouvert aussi pendant toute la durée du webinaire. Vous pouvez y mettre vos questions, écrire vos questions, puis commentaires, et on y reviendra par la suite. Veuillez noter aussi que la célébration est enregistrée et que nous nous assurons de partager l'enregistrement avec vous. And I'm not alone in this. I have my magnifique colleague Charlotte here.
Thanks, Lisanne. Hi, all, and welcome again. My name is Charlotte Cadell. I'm co-executive director of Interpares, and it's my pleasure to co-host this celebration with Lisanne today. And for us to begin this celebration in a good way, I would like to introduce Sheldon McGregor. Sheldon is a representative from the Algonquin Nation, and Sheldon, I'll turn it over to you.
Hi. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Sheldon McGregor, bonjour tout le monde. Just to keep with diplomacy with our French-speaking people on the call. It's interesting having, usually I'm doing these acknowledgements in 3 languages, but as Algonquin people, we're part of the Anishinaabe languages, Anishinaabe language. But we're all very different and unique in our own ways. And one of the things that we have is we're very big on diplomacy, especially between groups and families, because how we take care of the land, both ceremonially and also in our hunter-gathering societies, is that we always acknowledge the people's lands that we sit on and we practice on. So for example, if I were to go with the Ojibwe people, we would have a representative from the Ojibwe Nation. Although we're Anishinaabe, we're culturally different, and we may speak the same language, but we have different protocols. So returning back to it, that's why it's funny how it's kind of something that was traditionally very was commonly practiced, and it's kind of come full circle now. So I'll do the opening. It's in my mother tongue of Algonquin. It's not to be translated, primarily because of the difference between Algonquin and the English language, let alone the French language. The sensibility, a lot of things get lost in translation. But it's not to impose on anybody's religion or culture or spiritual practice. We do not impose our beliefs on others. So in that tradition, I'll get started. Gijemanido, Ashija Ninjino and Dognak, Migochonje Nongum, Ashija Widokushino Mamados and Gek Kaknakuch, Anje Aminobumazian nishna na be na kinagewan. Ashija Ganesha Nagawan. Udokaya Bino Mamandos and Gawan Kiwanong, Ashija Wanaki Nwenda. Udokaya Kakinaguch. I am Mino Medium, Ashija Mino Margashin, Ashija Mino Bugazanda. Udokaya Gaya Kakanagajaya Pome. Ayago Amson. Pamadas a jink. Buanak, Wabanak, Ganashtanu. Ashija Buanak, Ganeshag. Ashija Metagujik, Ashija Kadokuja Nishnabik. Ayagwams and Kaknagach, Vino Bijayan, Nishnabeki, Ayalmamanwakaki, Ayagwams and Miigwech. And that's the end of it. It was short and sweet. So I wish you all a good meeting, and I'll sign off now.
Miigwech, Sheldon, c'est encore plus, merci beaucoup. C'est encore plus pertinent de t'avoir quand on parle des nouvelles générations d'activisme. Alors, tes mots nous touchent. Nous aimerions en savoir plus sur vous qui nous joignez aussi aujourd'hui, savoir de quel territoire vous vous joignez. Alors, je vous invite à vous présenter dans le chat. Puis, je voulais nous présenter aussi brièvement. Donc, Interpares, ça signifie entre égaux. On est une organisation féministe de justice sociale qui croit à la solidarité comme approche à la coopération internationale. Les programmes d'Interpares portent essentiellement sur 6 enjeux: la souveraineté alimentaire, la justice de genre et les droits des femmes, la paix et la démocratie, la justice économique, la santé et la migration. Nous travaillons avec des homologues à long terme, des organisations locales et nationales de justice sociale, et ce, en Asie, en Afrique, en Amérique latine et aussi au Canada. Pour plus d'informations, vous pouvez visiter notre site web, interpares.ca, ou nous trouver sur les médias sociaux. Mais aujourd'hui, on est ici, on a le plaisir de vous présenter le prix Peter Gillespie pour la justice sociale 2020-2021. C'est un prix annuel qui rend un hommage à l'héritage de justice sociale laissé par notre ancien collègue et ami Peter Gillespie, décédé en 2015. Peter a travaillé à Interpares pendant 25 ans et était immensément respecté pour son travail avec des groupes de défense des droits de la personne et des mouvements pro-démocratiques en Afrique et en Asie. Donc, j'aimerais aussi prendre un moment pour saluer la partenaire de Peter, Lulama, puis sa bonne amie Sue, qui restent très engagés auprès d'Interpares et qui sont avec nous aujourd'hui. Donc, aujourd'hui, on remet un prix qui est très attendu, qui a été décerné en 2020 et dont la célébration a dû être interrompue par l'arrivée de la pandémie. Donc, l'année dernière, on avait décidé de célébrer une organisation dirigée par des jeunes, en fait de mettre en lumière les jeunes militants qui reconstruisent et remodèlent notre avenir. Nous avons le plaisir de vous présenter donc le lauréat du prix Peter Gillespie pour la justice sociale 2020-2021, BYTE. BYTE est une organisation par les jeunes et pour les jeunes qui se concentre sur l'autonomisation et la promotion des jeunes dans tout le Yukon et dans le nord du Canada. Donc, on va vous présenter un petit vidéo de 5 minutes qui vous présente le travail de BYTE. Veuillez noter que la vidéo va être en anglais avec des sous-titres en français, puis après, on va les accueillir.
BYTE is a for youth by youth organization. Our community outreach teams and our project teams work towards engaging youth where they're at. So we're trying to meet youth where they need the most support, and with that we're trying to create safe spaces for them to explore, to become leaders, to really empower youth to take charge of their own lives and to create opportunities for themselves. As our founder, Nicole Edwards, had said, she always wanted youth to be the change that our society needs, and it's impressive to see that BYTE is still striving towards that over 20 years later, and that we're still empowering youth to be the change that needs to happen.
BYTE is one of the founding members of the Communities Building Youth Futures project, and they provide a lot of the admin support for the project, and they're also on our executive team for CBYF. So BYTE really plays a big role in making sure that we can support young people throughout the territory.
So youth voices are very important to BYTE and to myself because youth have a lot to say and youth deserve to have their input in on issues and matters that connect to them.
I think that programming in the North, especially for community youth, is really important because building those connections helps to foster positive growth in other circumstances when it's not available. Those youth would be struggling with isolation, with boredom, mental health issues, and a lot of like loneliness, I think. And I can only speak from what I've seen and not really their experience, but I know that the positive impact I've seen from our work and from times that we've been able to spend for like multiple days at a time, you really get to see youth open up and see like the positive impact happening in front of your eyes, which is really special.
I think youth today should, one, take every opportunity that they can, and two, is to have a stand in whatever issues there may be, and I guess to be able to empower themselves to have a voice in the community that they're in. And I think BYTE definitely plays a role in that because our motto is to empower youth voices, and that is what we stand for.
My favorite part of working at BYTE is the environment. I love that I get to learn something new every day. I get to laugh. I enjoy the work that I do. I love the balance of it all, being able to be in the communities with youth.
One big thing that I've taken from this experience, being part of BYTE and the Yukon Youth Climate Change Panel, has really been how to communicate, especially with people in government. That's not an opportunity that we have very often. So when I get to go sit down with our Environment Minister and our Minister of Energy, Mines and Resources and have a conversation about how we want to see climate change action take place, that's really powerful. And I think being able to be confident in those conversations, I can really thank BYTE for preparing me for that.
I am thankful for organizations such as BYTE and CBYF because they give youth a platform to express their opinions when sometimes as young people we feel as if nobody really cares about our opinions and that we don't have a safe space to speak on issues that matter most to us. And with CBYF and BYTE, they really care, and they don't just give us a platform, but they give us a platform and they want to hear our feedback and hear what we care about.
So if I had to give advice to youth today, it would be to be kind to yourself and be kind to others. Give yourself some room to breathe. I think the world can be a pretty difficult place to navigate, and it's not always easy to do that by yourself. So take some time, enjoy a new hobby, make some friends, and just be yourself. You don't have to tackle everything in the same day.
I feel sometimes the importance of working with young people gets lost. It's not just 20% of the population that we're supporting, but it's 100% of our future. And all those young people are going to be the leaders of our society. They're going to be our society. And so by investing in them and supporting them now, it's really the best thing we can do to change society tomorrow.
Great. So now that you've seen a bit about BYTE, now I would like to accept your award. I would like to introduce BYTE's Executive Director, Josie Lederwitz. Josie is a passionate about creating safe space where youth voice will be heard and supporting youth in reaching their full potential. Beside providing the core administrative support to the community outreach and project team, Josie also focuses on building meaningful partnerships with communities and other organizations. When she's not at work, Josie enjoys exploring new trails throughout the Yukon or working on her latest sewing project. So, Josie.
Thank you. That's quite the introduction, and definitely very big footsteps to fill after this video. But yes, like I was just introduced, my name is Josie, and I'm coming to you today from the traditional territories of the Kwanlin-Dun First Nations and the Tonquichin Council. And I am extremely honored to be here today and to receive this award in the name of all of our BYTE staff, of the youth, of our volunteers, and of course our board of directors. And I'm just super stoked to celebrate BYTE. I only joined the BYTE team in April of this year, so quite a bit of time after we even originally were supposed to receive this award. And so when I was thinking about what I could possibly say to honor this this award today, I just realized that I'm not just accepting this for myself, but for the current team and staff, but I'm accepting this for everyone that has ever played a role in creating that amazing legacy that BYTE is today. And especially looking back at past EDs that executive directors that have done so much work to shape BYTE into that organization that it is today, and creating youth employment opportunities, in creating staff development opportunities so our staff can learn and grow on the job. And I think that's really what the core of BYTE is, that we're a for youth by youth organization. So we're creating entry-level jobs right here in-house. And with that, it's also us accepting this for the entire staff, like the current staff, the previous staff, all of our community outreach coordinators, all of our project managers, they bring in their own passions and their own interests into the organization. They really shape us into something that is keeping up with trends, that's keeping us young. And I'm saying that as an older youth myself, I think it's always super cool to learn from 18-year-olds, 16-year-olds, like what's going on at the moment and how do we reach youth and where do we reach them. And and then there's obviously our amazing board of directors that is just creating this framework that allows us to do the work that we do, and that allows us to build a sustainable organization and to really grow each year more and more, to be able to hire more youth, to educate more youth, to empower more youth, and really create these opportunities. And I've said youth now so many times, but obviously it's youth that built this organization. Without them, we wouldn't be who we are, and we're learning from them every day. We have youth on several panels. We have youth interns that work with us. We're in the process of getting youth more involved in our board of directors to really get feedback on that level of strategic planning for the future of where we want to go. So that being said, I realize that it's a whole lot of responsibility to talk about today. But I think that just really paints a really good picture of who BYTE is, because BYTE isn't just the staff that is in the office right now that really is super dedicated, that has pivoted extremely well during the pandemic to kind of still reach youth when it wasn't possible to safely go into their spaces. And it's really this entire group that makes up BYTE, and going all the way back over 20 years ago when we were founded. And so I think that's really a big pair of shoes to fill for everyone that will come after us. But it's also a pretty cool organization to be a part of. And so yeah, this award, I think we're all extremely grateful for this recognition, and it just really will become a part of the BYTE story. And we're extremely grateful for that. So thank you in the name of everyone that is BYTE, that will be BYTE, that has been BYTE.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Josie. Congratulations again, and really thank you for your words. Watching the video, I was struck by how many people emphasize the relationships, the connections, the community of BYTE, and it's really clear that you've built a rich network. And I understand, Josie, that you have a surprise with you that you are going to open with us. So can I invite you to grab it and do so now?
I have it right here. Well, what a surprise.
Oh my goodness.
I know. Yeah, I'm very excited to open this. I think the entire office was quite excited when this big box arrived in our office, so we were very excited.
Well, please go ahead and do the honors. And as Josie's opening, I'll explain that each year Interpares commissions an original artwork as a gift to the recipient of the Peter Gillespie Award. So this year's artwork was created by Gayle Uyagaqi Kabloona. And whenever Josie's ready, you can show it to us.
Sorry. I'm just holding it up. I hope everyone can see it.
You see it clearly. Thank you, Josie. Uyagaqi is here with us today. She's an Inuk printmaker, ceramic artist, and writer based in Ottawa. Art is how she connects with others within her culture, showcases her Inuit culture to others, and expresses her biracial identity. So I would now like to invite Uyagaqi to say a few words about the meaning behind the artwork.
Hi, thank you. It's been great to be involved in this. I was contacted a few months ago by Interpares, and it's really nice to see what the organization is doing and to get to be a part of celebrating BYTE's work. I am primarily a ceramicist and printmaker, and the award is a 2-color print. It's orange and black. The black hands are helping hands. And the orange part where the writing is running through is actually the shape of the river that runs through Whitehorse. And I use the color orange to signify all of the social justice work that people are doing and that still needs to happen. And the gold dots are added afterwards, and in Inuit traditional tattooing, dots symbolize family. So each little dot could be seen as like a person, and in this case I wanted it to show community and yeah, like in between the hands and like growing outwards. And it was also interesting to be working on a piece of art as an Indigenous person, but for a different territory. So I was really careful to not use any imagery from the local First Nations because that's not my culture, but I wanted to still show like a, Indigenous work and solidarity. So thank you for the opportunity for letting me make this artwork for you.
Thank you
so much. Sorry, can I just like jump in here? I know this. I'm just seeing our staff chat going crazy right now, and people are calling dibs on where this is going to hang in the office. So I just wanted to say thank you again, and it's really beautiful. And yeah, I think there might be, we might have to do a draw on where it can hang in the office.
Great. Yeah, I will also say that it is like part of my favorite part about being an artist is getting to see where my art ends up. And it's so like I made it with like these little things in my studio in this room, and it's all the way over in Yukon now and will be among all these new people. So I love that part.
Oui, merci beaucoup. Puis je pense que c'est exactement ce que Interpares recherchait, comme d'avoir cette symbolique-là qui va avec la remise du prix, puis toute la beauté qui va avec la création Uyagaqi. Alors, c'est très apprécié. Donc, c'est un peu ça que Interpares, on est... C'est ce qui nous tient à cœur, c'est justement la connexion, les rencontres, puis essayer de mettre en lien différents militants, différentes personnes qui œuvrent pour la justice sociale. Puis aujourd'hui, on avait prévu d'avoir Luana Pereira, qui est une jeune activiste de Guinée-Bissau, avec nous pour justement nous parler de sa lutte à elle, puis du travail qu'elle fait avec, comme jeune en Guinée-Bissau pour l'environnement et pour la justice sociale. Puis malheureusement, il y a une panne d'Internet au niveau national en Guinée-Bissau. Alors, elle ne peut pas se joindre avec nous aujourd'hui, mais au moins, je suis contente qu'hier, elle ait eu l'occasion de faire de discuter avec Josie et d'avoir un petit échange. Alors, il y a déjà ce lien-là qui est créé, puis on va essayer de créer plus de connexions, mais vous pourrez voir dans les créations d'Interpares ce mois-ci que justement, on parle beaucoup de cette nouvelle génération-là d'activisme qui vient, puis c'est pas seulement, c'est bien de l'avoir ici au Canada, puis mais nous, on a la chance à Interpares, dans nos rôles, de l'avoir émergé un peu partout, puis ça nous donne vraiment confiance dans le futur, puis ça nous inspire, puis c'est un peu ça qu'on aimerait se faire avec vous pour le reste du temps qu'on a, on a environ 30 minutes. Ça serait d'avoir justement une discussion sur ces thématiques-là, sur l'activisme intergénérationnel, l'activisme des jeunes. Puis j'aimerais ça vous inviter à poser vos questions dans le chat, que ça peut être en français ou en anglais, puis on va pouvoir les lire à voix haute, puis engager la conversation avec Josie. Puis pendant que justement vous pensez ou réfléchissez à des questions que vous aimeriez qu'on aborde dans la prochaine demi-heure, j'aimerais ça demander justement à Josie, elle nous en a parlé un peu, mais pour débuter la conversation, j'aimerais ça qu'elle nous parle un peu plus de comment voyez-vous le militantisme qui soit renforcé par la participation des jeunes, puis qu'il y ait une collaboration entre les générations, une collaboration intergénérationnelle. Alors, Josie, est-ce que je peux te demander de partir la discussion sur cette thématique?
Yes, I definitely can. I'm very sad to hear that Luana wasn't able to join. So this is obviously going to be a slightly one-sided conversation. But I'm happy to share some Yukon insights. And yeah, and if folks have questions, definitely happy to answer them too. So I think youth participation has always been super important because I think Maxime, our coworker Maxime, had mentioned that in the video too, that they're not just 20% of our society, but they're 100% of our future society. And I think that just is more relevant now than it ever was before, because youth is so well educated, just with access to the internet. They can research stuff, they can educate themselves, and they have opinions that are very valid. Just because it's a 16-year-old that has an opinion doesn't mean that it's not a qualified opinion and that it's not valid. I don't think you have to study at university for 20 years before you're allowed to voice your opinion. And I think, especially here in the North, youth has come very far, especially looking at intergenerational trauma and just all the struggles in the North that youth faces. And so I think for us as semi-adults, I'm saying that because I sometimes don't feel like an adult, but I think we just, it's our responsibility to step in and support that. And if they have an opinion and want to voice their opinions and raise their voices, it's our obligation to support that and to help them gain that platform where they can speak out and where we can create safe spaces for youth to come together and learn and just be empowered. And I think that's really what BYTE is all about, but that's also in general what I think, where we just have that responsibility to support our youth in becoming activists, in being activists. So I think that's definitely something that I see every day that I would like to see done more often.
Josie, I love that term, semi-adult. That's exactly how I feel. Some days more semi, and some days more adult. I'm also, I regret that Luana wasn't able to join us, and that you're left without a discussion partner. But we, among the three of us, are also all young people doing activism. So I thought we could share, all three of us, a little bit about how we got into activism as young people, our experiences with youth activism. And for you, Josie, I'd love to hear more about your experiences with BYTE, but also beforehand. I encourage folks who are listening to the three of us to keep thinking about questions and popping them in the question and answer function when you get a chance. But I can kick off and share that for me, it was my experience at university that really brought me into activism, and my experience getting involved in student politics. And it started off with a desire to have a feminist collective on my university campus. I went to a very small university, and I was like, I just want a group of cool feminist ladies or people with whom I can hang out and we can have critical discussions about pop culture and like Taylor Swift and Beyonce. And that led me to getting more involved in meaningful ways in women's rights activism, in gender justice activism, and particularly anti-sexual violence activism on my campus. And that ended up being a big part of my university experience, and also what I did after university. And I know for me, it was something that's absolutely shaped my worldview in terms of my understanding of how power works, and also how power can be shared and shifted. But also an incredibly powerful or empowering experience in terms of realizing my power as part of a collective movement to pursue change. One thing I will say that I've appreciated since moving on from student activism is being part of more intergenerational spaces too. And one thing I really appreciate about our Interpares team is that I learned so much from folks who have been in social justice movements, in feminist organizing, in activist spaces, well before me, and whose work I've benefited from, as I hope that we're continuing to do work that will benefit the youth of today and the future. So that's me. I wonder, Lizanne, do you want to share a bit about yourself before we continue on with questions and such?
Oui, c'est ça, mais je veux rappeler aux gens aussi qui peuvent poser leurs questions. Je sais qu'on est en mode webinaire, c'est pas le mode le plus facile pour la participation, mais vos questions sont les bienvenues. Je pense que ce qui est intéressant, puis ce que je reconnais dans ce que Josie dit, c'est que les jeunes, comme citoyens à part entière, puis je pense que c'était quelque chose qui est très important à Interpares, c'est de dire que les jeunes, c'est pas des apprentis activistes ou c'est pas quelque chose en devenir. C'est déjà des activistes à part entière. Puis c'est déjà des personnes qui font le changement, qui sont déjà dans le leadership, qui sont déjà en train de participer. Puis comme Charlotte disait, ça, je pense que ça résonne un peu avec la vision d'Interpares, que ça prend des gens de différentes générations. Puis personnellement, c'est ça aussi, tu sais, je pense qu'on est tous, on est arrivé à Interpares comme le fruit d'un processus qui a commencé souvent dans les mouvements étudiants, dans les associations étudiantes, dans les manifestations contre la guerre ou les accords de libre-échange pour ma part. Alors, c'est quelque chose qui se construit et qui se fait à long terme, mais c'est ça, je pense pas que j'étais moins activiste il y a 10 ans que je le suis aujourd'hui. Puis, donc, je pense que ce qui était vraiment intéressant, moi, en tant que chargée de programme en Amérique latine, c'est qu'on voit justement toute une nouvelle génération de féminisme, de féministes qui se construit puis qui se construit sur les luttes du passé. Je pense à notre partenaire Ruda au Guatemala, qui est un média qui se trouve principalement sur les plateformes sociales parce que c'est là qu'elles peuvent rencontrer les jeunes femmes. Mais elles parlent de thématiques comme les conflits, le conflit civil, les conséquences du conflit civil, de trauma intergénérationnel aussi, puis se réapproprier l'histoire sans victimiser, revictimiser ou les femmes. Alors, je pense que ça va peut-être un peu dans toutes les directions ce que je dis, mais je pense que c'est la beauté de la participation des jeunes, c'est que c'est vraiment un cycle. Puis, on ne part jamais de zéro. On apprend de ce qui s'est fait avant, mais on apporte notre touche spéciale. Puis, les jeunes activistes deviennent des vieux activistes et collaborent avec des nouveaux jeunes. Alors, ça serait ma perspective sur la thématique. Alors oui, alors c'est ça, il y a une grand-mère qui nous écoute qui dit qui est contente de voir qu'il y a des jeunes qui participent aussi à la justice sociale. Oui, je pense qu'Interpares, c'est un bon exemple de lieu intergénérationnel où on a cette continuité dans l'activisme.
Josie, I don't know if there's anything more that you want to share about your activist journey, if you will, about how you came to be where you are now. And then I also see we have a question of how older generations can support you in their activism. So whatever you'd like to speak to, please go ahead.
Yeah. I can definitely share a little bit of the backstory of how I got here. I feel like I'm quite a late bloomer to actual activism. I've always been a very strict feminist, and I've always been very outraged at social justice issues. But I think it was until my late 20s when I actually started realizing, okay, maybe I should do something about it, because it's one thing to be upset about something, but another thing to actually do something about it. And I joined the board of a women's center here in Whitehorse, but my career was actually in tourism, and I hired young adults a lot throughout my career. a lot of folks that were just starting out in their careers, and I realized that there's quite a lot of hurdles for young folks to enter the workforce. I mean, I think we all kind of know the jokes now about, entry level, meaning that you need 3 years experience and a master's degree. And so I just started to realize that I became less and less a fan of that as a hiring manager, and like fighting those battles constantly and saying that no, we need to actually create entry level positions for youth that might not have a degree, that might not have 3 years of experience before they start their first job. And yeah, and I think eventually that just led me to BYTE, and I really enjoyed learning from everyone. We have an amazingly talented team, and everyone comes from a different background, and they all have their own experiences. And I don't think I would lie if I said that I learned something new every day. And so that's just really nice to see, and really reinforcing that idea of like activism still very much being required. And then I think the question was how older generations can support youth. Was that the question? Okay. So I think the biggest thing is just give them platforms and actually listen. Don't give them platforms and pretend that you're listening. Don't put up a big show of, oh yes, we're involving youth. Like we see this so much of folks asking for youth input so that they can write in their report, hey, we asked youth. But then there's not actually anything happening with that, or they're not actually listening to what youth wants and needs. So I think the biggest piece is just, if you have the opportunity to give a platform, use it and listen and take notes and and actually act upon what youth wants, because there's a lot of smart people out there and they just might only be 16. That doesn't mean they can't be listened to. That would be my response to that question.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that one of the things that really inspires me often looking at young activist movements around the world is the ability to imagine futures that we need people to be imagining, futures that are hopeful and bold and unafraid of change. And I love, Josie, how you talk about being an older youth supporting younger youth, because I'm like, I don't know, everyone seems to like just have it better figured out. The younger they get is how I tend to feel. I see that there's a question here about issues specifically facing youth in the North, and in your context, Josie, what issues are they passionate about? What leads them to pursue social justice? Could you speak to that?
Yeah, I think like we are involved with the Yukon Youth Panel on climate change. And I believe in the first year that we held this panel, we had over 70 applicants that wanted to be on that panel, to voice their opinions, to be allowed to come together with the government to actually give input on their climate action plan. And I think looking at that panel, as well as other climate fellowships, for example, really just shows like how important climate change is in the North. I mean, if you read any kind of articles on climate change, it's always Canada's North is definitely hit hard by it. So I think that's just something that our youth is really aware of, and that we see very much here in the North. Other than that, I think I mentioned intergenerational trauma earlier, Indigenous cultures. I think, yeah, I don't want to speak too much on that, but I think just rediscovering culture, languages, like that's definitely something that youth is quite passionate about. Mental wellness is a huge piece to that. I know in the video it was spoken about how a lot of youth might feel lonely here. The winters are long and cold and very dark. So I think yeah, just in general, mental health and wellness is definitely an issue. Suicide among youth. So it all kind of fits together like one big puzzle piece, because obviously if you see living costs going up, no employment opportunities, then you're looking at climate change. And yeah, so I think the big umbrella term really is mental wellness, because not everyone can do everything at once. And so there's a lot of issues that come together in the North that we really hope to support youth with by giving them resources, by giving them a toolkit essentially to figure things out.
Yeah, I think building on that, that it would be interesting to know more. I see there's a question here by Eric saying in Guinea-Bissau, the organization one that works with Nova Generación do Tinegena, they host a radio program for youth and by youth, so they can discuss the issues that is of interest to them. And it broadcasts across the country. And so it would be good to hear how is BYTE amplifying the voice of youth. You mentioned a few, but if you can expand on that, that would be great.
Yeah. Sorry, first of all, I'm blown away by that radio show because that sounds amazing. I think we as BYTE, we're trying to have conversations with the government, with policymakers, to involve more youth and to include them in conversations. And as BYTE, we can give that platform, we can facilitate that exchange, and we can also support them in how to communicate with, for example, the government, because not everyone knows how to just walk up to a minister and have these conversations, right? So this is where we can kind of create that safe space. We're also ourselves creating youth employment opportunities. So if youth are passionate about youth work, they can kind of come in through BYTE, either through a project or through a position in our office, and learn more that way, and create their own opportunities. I think that's really what we want them to do. We want to empower them to create their own opportunities.
Thanks, Josie. I am curious to hear. Oh, sorry, I see there's actually a question in the Q&A that I missed. Well, you've spoken to this quite a bit, actually, but if there are ways that you want to add onto it, please do so. Someone's asked, what are some ways youth these days are showing up to fight their social justice battles? And maybe I'll add to it saying that it's interesting to me the ways in which youth are engaging on the ground in activism and the incredible direct action we've seen in so many contexts led by youth, but also, Josie, you mentioned online engagement and the power of youth to be engaged online. And I imagine in the last couple of years, that's been all the more important for BYTE, for groups like BYTE. And so if you want to speak not just to the issues, but to the strategies youth are using, I'd love to hear about that.
So would I. I don't think we've really figured it completely out yet how to engage youth virtually. So that comment is more regarding that question. I know our Yukon youth panel on climate change, they worked amazingly together virtually for, essentially throughout the entire pandemic, and they came together via Zoom, and they really came up in the end with an entire book of recommendations and presented it to the government, and I was very impressed with them. I felt like a proud mama duck, even though I didn't even know half of them because I only joined the BYTE team earlier this year. But it was really impressive to see. And so I think engaging them virtually is definitely tough. But I'm also thinking about how hard it is to engage adults virtually. speaking from my own experience, like you cannot spend this many hours on Zoom every day. It does burn you out, and it makes you want to not speak up about items that, you know, might make a difference. So I think in general, youth show up pretty motivated to fight for their causes. I definitely see quite a bit of desperation too sometimes when folks just feel overwhelmed and feel like that their voices aren't going to be heard. So I think there's a lot of moral support needed and positive reinforcement that they are doing a good job. Sure, the first 3 people might not listen, but the 4th might. So I think, yeah, I think in general, like all of us are a little bit of a support team for youth, and just giving that extra little nudge and encouraging them that what they're doing is actually really great and they should keep at it. So yeah, I don't know if that answers the question. I think I sidetracked there a little bit. Yeah.
I enjoyed the answer, and I appreciate, Josie, that you keep emphasizing youth as experts on their own experiences and people who know the solutions that they need, and what they really need are a platform to share those solutions and the resources to make them possible. Yeah, I really appreciate that perspective. I think I'll do one last call for questions from the audience. We have a few more minutes. If no one else has anything to ask, we can start to wind down. Josie, do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share, or Lisanne, you as well?
I don't think I do. I keep side glancing at this gorgeous piece of art here, and yeah, it's honestly just such an amazing recognition for BYTE and what everyone has worked for all those years. And yeah, I feel like I'm just a tiny little puzzle piece in the big BYTE puzzle, and it's honestly been so amazing to get to know everyone on the team and to now see this recognized and see over 20 years of work recognized in this way. So yeah, I'm just still slightly humbled and blown away.
Oui, moi, je veux juste dire merci, Josie, puis c'était un plaisir d'apprendre à connaître BYTE. Je pense que c'est ce genre, c'est toujours une inspiration de voir des organisations qui se battent pour et par les jeunes. C'est dans un contexte difficile qu'on imagine la mobilisation dans le nord du Canada, c'est pas la chose la plus facile à faire. Donc, on reconnaît vraiment ce prix-là. C'est un petit geste de reconnaissance pour tout le travail accompli, puis pour partager avec vous l'énergie de continuer, puis d'avancer tous ensemble. Justement, on est un petit morceau d'un plus grand casse-tête, puis mais c'est important de souligner la valeur du travail que vous accomplissez.
Thank you.
So I think I will conclude today's celebration here. I'd like to give some special thanks, of course, to Josie for all that you've shared, and especially for letting us put you in the hot seat at the last minute. Sheldon, thank you for welcoming us to the territory that many of us are on today. Thank you, Uyagaqi, for your beautiful artwork and for the meaningful words you shared. Thank you, Danielle, who has been providing interpretation throughout, and Monique, who has been in the background providing important tech support. I'd also like to thank a few of my colleagues who are behind the scenes today, but whose preparation was instrumental to the success of the event. Thank you, Ashley, Rebecca, Bill, and Lorraine. And thanks to my nice co-host, Lisanne. It's always a pleasure sharing space with you. And finally, I would like to thank all of you for joining us today. It's a pleasure to unite together in celebration. And I know we all kind of ache to be uniting in person, but this also feels really warm and connected and good. We'll be sure to share the recording of today's celebration, and please don't hesitate to reach out to us if you'd like any more information about what you heard today. Thanks so much for joining, everyone, and have a really great evening.
Merci à toi, Charlotte.
Thank you, everyone.